According to The Conversation Africa, Uganda in 2021 had women hold 46% of local government positions, 33% of parliamentary seats, and 43% of the cabinet positions. The women's movement has also fought for and won significant legal reforms. Women's participation in leadership and decision-making continues to be limited, yet it remains a top priority and a critical element for achieving gender equality.
I think leadership is one of the biggest factors where you do see gender inequality in terms of women having voice and being able to influence decision making. And the ability to influence decision making starts right from the home. There are several factors that lead to gender inequality. And one of the major factors, I think, is around the social norms. So the way we have been raised, what we believe should be the role of women vis-a-vis men. Because it impacts on various other areas. It impacts on education, it impacts on economic empowerment. So do women have collateral? Are they able to access loans? Are they able to engage in business? Issues of safety, how are they perceived in the world of work?
We believe if women participate, their voices are heard in different decision-making spaces. If they can effectively engage and they can challenge the status quo, that is when we start seeing the change in gender equality and women's rights. Because there, they're able to influence decisions, policies, laws, resource allocations, challenge injustices because of their participation.
Over 75% of Uganda's population is below the age of 35, and 51% are women. The legal and policy framework for women's representation in governance exists, but it has done little to address the limited and divided opportunities. Oxfam has taken it upon itself to combat these setbacks.
We're committed to supporting women's leadership, but not just women's leadership. We're committed to supporting transformative leadership for women's rights. So the kind of leadership that will actually bring about change in the position and the condition of women.
The government of Uganda is a signatory to several international, regional and national laws and policies that advance the participation of women in public leadership. These include the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, Beijing Platform of Action, and the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG. In addition, Oxfam has worked on its strategic framework for 2021 to 2030, a commitment to work more effectively with others towards achieving a Uganda free from inequality and injustice, especially for women.
Partnerships are very important because we think that it's important to strengthen and work with others, collaborate to bring about change. So we do work with women's rights organizations because we think that they're very important in driving the change that we need to see from a leadership perspective.
We believe we need to build a critical mass of women such that even if you're in a traditional setting, as a woman, you need to have the leadership ability in that traditional setting.
We trained younger women leaders together with Oxfam and the UWONET. This training inspired so many younger women leaders to take up position of leadership, and realized that in the 10th Parliament, we only had 159 female MPs, but because of that training, we have seen an increase in the number of female leaders from 159 to 188.
Politics previously was a preserve for men, and very few women were actually engaged or involved in politics. Even as we speak now, the Parliament of Uganda, just 33% of the women constitute the numbers in Parliament.
When we had just joined council, UWONET immediately picked us from there. We had a lot of engagement, series of trainings. We have been able to learn a lot as the Women District Caucus for NEBI.
Due to this training, I've been able to know my role as a councillor representing people with disabilities. Those ramps you're seeing around, it was my initiative that the ramps were put.
I had fear in me. Making views in council, it was quite challenging. Also, bringing out motions, it was also hard for me. But after the trainings from UWONET, at least they capacitated me. I can now stand firm and advocate, even lobby for the women in our community, and most especially for the girl child.
We are going to lay the budget this month, and then we are going to scrutinize it. When you are scrutinizing is when UWONET told us we have to put on our gender lenses so that we are very sensitive on matters pertaining to women affairs.
Because we had a lot of home deliveries in the community, so as the Secretary of Social Services and my colleagues, the female councillors, we lobbied for maternity ward in Alui Health Center 3. Then we lobbied for also a maternity ward in Wadlai Health Center 3. Pakwach district at large, we have water issues. But as leaders, we always lobby, and also partners come in and help us. And that one, they have constructed for us a solar powered water system in Ragem sub-county.
While many strides have been made, especially around the international and national frameworks, so much more can still be done.
Much as we are advocating for women to be actively involved in leadership, but to some men, they have been discouraging their women not to participate. So I feel it has been a very big challenge, and we need to do much so that we can change their attitude.
Women face a lot of challenges, ranging from violence in their households to the various economic disadvantages, because the women do not own land. And women who want to do business, unfortunately, cannot do business without collateral. So it becomes a bit of a challenge in them accessing loans from the banks and so on.
One of the things we did through this program is to bring the women in what we call a caucus, a women's caucus, agreeing that yes, we are different, we could be supporting different political parties, but knowing that the people we serve and the most vulnerable are women, who are our constituents. How then do we put our political parties aside and advance the issues that affect women?
I get support from my fellow colleagues, most especially the fellow women councillors. They always help me in my constituency. Like when I'm going to carry out my activities as Secretary of Social Services, I involve them. We move to schools to empower girl child and also the boy child. We don't neglect them. We move to these schools, we talk to them as a caucus, and we pick their views, bring to council.
So through the caucus, we were able to bring women together to agree on common issues to advance in council. Through the caucus, we were able to make these women understand that women's issues do not know any class, and therefore we must advance as one.
There is still a disproportionate distribution of political positions in favor of men in the country, caused by a number of hurdles women encounter at different levels of their leadership growth and development.
The challenges is that we are not financially able to do our own things, because campaign is expensive and it needs a lot of money, it needs a lot of consultations here and there, and what is needed for you to do your campaign, because when you get the campaign team, you have to facilitate them.
Many organizations have worked side by side with Oxfam and spearheaded projects meant to give women a fair advantage in leadership and play a bigger role in making decisions that affect them across Uganda.
Women are educated, women can do all that men can do when it comes to boardroom matters, when it comes to decision making. So we want to see more women in decision making positions. So we hope that the amendment that I brought, the constitution amendment, to increase the number of positions for women to 40%, we hope that that can also pass, because there is still the other mentality. The majority of the people that make decisions are still men.
As a woman in civil society, my work can only succeed if I work very hand in hand with a woman in parliament, with a woman in council, with a woman in the business sector or in the public service.
Women's leadership is not an end in itself, and I think we've seen that, yes. So while in some instances, many people have said we have realized the numbers, how do those numbers actually impact the lives of women and girls? How can we bring about change in society? How do we ensure that men are also involved? Because this is not only about women, but how do we ensure that men understand these issues and are also part of the process of identifying solutions and driving change in gender relations?
Only when women have full access to decision-making positions will laws, policies, and budgets reflect the needs of all citizens and support women's rights.